So Naofumi is going to be a traveling merchant this point onward. Unexpected Spice and Wolf is unexpected. And if for some reason you never heard of Spice and Wolf or never started it, then I recommend it completely. It's an amazing series, one of the best series I have ever seen. Personally, to me, it's at least one of my favorites. The anime is good, the light novel is good, it's just a really quality series, and so if you like traveling merchants and fantasy elements, I do recommend Spice and Wolf. But okay, enough with the Spice and Wolf plug. Let's talk about this episode. Can we mention how scummy it was at the beginning of this episode for what the king and the princess tried to do, or Mine tried to do, to Naofumi? It was honestly aggravating. It really made me a little bit upset with just what they tried to get away with. It's some really crusty stuff. It's kind of like a dude coming into a party thinking that, like, oh, you don't deserve anything when you've done all the work. I mean, when we backtrack, a couple episodes ago and what he did when the wave first hit, he was the only hero that safeguarded the village, protected them from the assault of all those undead zombies and stuff that was about to kill everybody. He protected them. And while the other heroes were getting fame and glory taking down the main boss, which without them, yes, the wave would have still kept going on, but the point still stands. Now, Fumi protected the villagers, which mattered, because once the fight is done, once the wave is, over, the villagers need to rebuild. They gotta rebuild. They gotta set up infrastructure. They gotta have farms going. They gotta have things working. And so, just because the fight is over doesn't mean that, the villagers' fight's over. Because they constantly have to rebuild, fix things to be able to get back where they were. Some realm of normal. And that's kind of what Naofumi was helping with. He allowed it to where the village can kind of rebuild itself, stay alive, for it can be like it once was, and potentially maybe one day even better. And so seeing how the king and Mine tried to kind of gyp Naofumi from any form of payment was scum. I mean, to be fair, I think all of us at that point didn't expect Naofumi to get any form of payment because of just how they've been treating him since the very beginning of the series. It was pretty unexpected that they were even willing to offer him 500 silver. That was pretty surprising. Which, by the way, let's talk about the price ranges of where everybody was paid. All 4 heroes. So, as I've already mentioned, Naofumi got 500. But when we look at the other heroes, like one hero got like 4,000, the spear hero, I believe, and everybody else got around like 38 to 3,700 silver, which is ridiculous. While Naofumi, as someone that technically, didn't get a lot of fame and glory in terms of taking out a boss, he did protect the village, which I think is the most important thing to do. And he barely got anything from it. I'm like, it's so unbalanced, because it just like, are you kidding me right now? You're trying to take this man's any type of worth, any money he can get, because you're just so crusty towards him. You do not like him at all, constantly proving you wrong. Which, by the way, I find it really heinous that the reason why they weren't going to give Naofumi any money was the fact that they were trying to take cost or money out of the silver because of removing the slave mark. I'm like, what? Like, wait, back up. What? I think many watching that scene probably had the same reaction I did. You're telling me you're taking money out of what you're supposed to give him after saving everybody, but the money you're taking is technically money you're forcing from him. He didn't ask to get the slave mark removed in the first place. That was forced upon him by the king and the princess, saying you have to have this duel with the spear hero. If you don't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And so he was forced into that. And it's not even getting into the fact that there was cheating going on, that Mine cheated. The point is that entire duel was forced upon him, even if he lost, okay? And, there was no cheating. The duel was forced upon him, and the king has the balls to say, I'm taking all your gold. You get 0 out of this because the slave mark was removed. Like, what? Are you freaking kidding me right now? And then, when they did cheat, and he still decides to take it, the money out from removing the slave mark, I'm like, you cannot be like this. You're cheating, and you're still trying to take this man's money. There's no dignity whatsoever in this royalty, a part of this kingdom, for what we currently saw in this episode. I mean, you don't just do stuff like that. You're definitely not a good person at all if you're willing to go that far to really screw someone over. Which, okay, by the way, he did manage to get his money. at least 500 silver. And I honestly expected Naofumi to throw it back at the king, which he was probably going to do if Raphtalia didn't step in and try to stop him from doing what he was going to do. Because you see a brief moment when, he was about to rebuttal and talk to the king after he got the money, it looked like he was probably going to throw the money back at him, kind of very similar to what happened in the first episode. But that did not happen because Raph blocked him, as like, calmed him down, and then, he looked over at her and she's like, we're leaving and all that, and then, they walked out. Raph managed to make it to where he could keep the money, but at the same time made it to where, he didn't throw it away, and, he was going to. But anyways, carrying on though, the reason why he was able to keep the money, besides Raph stepping in, was the bow and sword hero actually protected Naofumi. Which, this extends upon what they did in the last episode. See, as I said, my opinion of the bow and sword hero is a little bit different now. They're not outright scum like, let's say, the spear hero, which I'll get into him in a moment. I'll talk about him in full, how I feel about him and his actions in this episode and previous episodes. But the bow and sword hero, you can see at the very least, they're not completely manipulated or brain dead when it comes to seeing what's really going on. At least facts in front of them. They're not going to turn a blind eye to what is presented before them. And so they straight up stood up to the king and mine on the bullcrap they were trying to sell, saying, Naofumi didn't deserve any money, which in turn that's what got him his money in the first place. And I think the reason why they probably got less money than the spear hero is probably because, the king and mine are probably starting to lose favor with them. They probably don't like the bow and sword hero as much because they're standing up to them politically. They're trying to stand up, announce their own opinion, and they're not joining in their party making fun of the shield hero. I think they're not really liking that, which I feel like if that continues, or at least next time something happens, the king and mine are probably not going to be on the bow and sword side because they keep, blocking them, trying to, mess up Naofumi and whatever he's trying to do. That's my honest opinion on that. Now, talking about the spear hero. The spear hero, the more and more I look at him, the more I realize he is a very stereotypical isekai protagonist. That's exactly what he is. I don't know how many have realized that, but the way he acts and how he's so full of himself, thinking he's the greatest and thinking everything is being given to him, it's literally like a typical cliche isekai protagonist. He thinks he deserves everything. He thinks he's basically God and better than everyone. He has the moral high ground, and he's really dense. He's a really dense, character. And he's a typical MC you would see in an isekai. And seeing how he's being manipulated by his party or people around him, I'm like, honestly, this reminds me so much of how a protagonist would be, how they're constantly gifted, or they're, there's always luck on their side. It's kind of like showing that, but in the bad light. And I like that about this series, but it's clear as day that the spear hero isn't really that intelligent. It's not just the fact that he's dense. He's just easily manipulated. He kind of, stretches the truth a bit just to be able to think he has the moral high ground, and he doesn't see things right in front of his face that really make everybody look bad, like the king, or, mine, or how this entire nation is. He tries to completely turn a blind eye to it, which thankfully, like I said, the bow and sword hero are not doing. But the spear hero, he's lost all respect in my eyes. I don't respect him at all. I mean, I already didn't respect him in the first episode, but I truly have lost respect for him because just how he acts, how he is. Because it shows that he's not an evil person. It's very clear he's not. But he's so dense, he's so naive, where he can't, grasp on what's going on. And I just don't like that. His character is really awful. I don't like him. I really, really do not. Now, anyways, let's talk about everything else. So, Raph had a lot of good scenes in this episode, but she actually took a back seat to everything else that happened. I mean, the little Chocobo, Philo, I think that's how you pronounce it, Philo, however you pronounce her name, she was the main focus of this episode. And I think that's probably going to catch many by surprise, myself included, and I welcome it, because even though I do enjoy the journey that Naofumi is having with Raph, I do think we need more cast members. Like, we need more main members to the group that will help out Naofumi, because when you think about an RPG, a party or whatever, going into a game-like world, you're going to need more than just 2 members. You're going to need maybe a party of 5, maybe a party of 10, at the minimum, a party of 3. And having, someone like Philo join the party makes sense. It allows Naofumi to not just rely on Raphtalia, but also someone else as well. Because even if, let's say, Raphtalia is always going to be, like, the frontline DPS, he does need someone that could be range as well. Like, he needs someone that's either a ranged spellcaster, an archer, or just another DPS, or even a secondary tank. There always needs to be something like that in a party. Usually, in RPGs or MMOs I play party-like systems, usually you have a healer, you have a tank, and you have, 3 DPS. That's usually how it goes. And tank and healer are the most important. And it is revealed that Naofumi is a healer/support, which makes sense. He's the tank, support, healer. And I mean, since he can't really do much damage or fight, him being able to heal people, give buffs and all that, it makes perfect sense. So I think that falls in line with how a MMORPG is. But there does need to be more DPS on the team, because if Raphtalia is knocked out of commission, there needs to be someone else to, step up to the plate and be able to fight until, Raphtalia is healed by Naofumi. You get my point here. So, I do like the new character addition. By the way, the finale of the episode reveals Philo in, like, I'm assuming a humanoid-like form, and I'm like, this character reminds me a lot of, Poppy? I think her name was Poppy in, Monster Musume. I believe that's her name. It's been a while since I've seen that series, but if any of you have watched, Monster Girl, Monster Musume, which came out a very long time ago, probably a few years now, actually. Has it really been that long? Holy crap. But the new character, I swear her voice actor is very similar. Could be the same voice actor, I don't know. But the design-wise, it's kind of identical. And I do wonder if this is the start of, like, potentially a harem for Naofumi. Because, let's face the facts here. In a lot of isekai series, there is harems. Or usually a lot of female characters surrounding the male character. And I have a feeling that we're starting to see some form of harem forming in this series, because now with Philo joining the ranks, I'm like, he now has 2 female characters that are going to be around him, protecting him. I'm like, is this a harem? And if anyone could clarify in the comments below, please do so. Naofumi went to the slave auction house, and he actually put the symbol back on Raphtalia, which is a very interesting scene, because now the symbol, the slave symbol that Raphtalia had on her, is no longer a symbol of being a slave. It's more of a connection she has with Naofumi. That's why she got it back on. It wasn't a symbol of being, slave or servant and master. It was more of a, we are now bonded, we are connected, and we are as one. We are in one group, one party, one mind, one soul. That's kind of what it meant, and I do find that in some ways kind of beautiful. And I feel like Naofumi, he's starting to really understand that Raphtalia probably means a lot more to him than probably just a simple party member. I don't know, he probably sees her as family now because of just how she treats him. She is someone that really stands up for him, understands him, helps him out, and that's kind of what the last episode was really trying to show. Which, anyways, after that scene, there's a bunch of eggs on display in the auction house, and the dude that sells slaves is like, hey, it's a gacha game, buy whatever, you want, and there's a chance that you can get, like, a dragon or something very powerful. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is literally loot boxes in games, gambling for what you want and all that. I'm like, that's exactly what this is. And thankfully, it seems like Naofumi, luck is on his side. He actually managed to get something, at the very least, very different from what he expected. He has a little bird-like creature turning into a humanoid bird girl, which kind of looks like an angel when you think about it. So he has lucked out. He has hit the jackpot when it comes to rolling the dice. So, good on him. He does need some luck. I mean, the man has had a really hard time in this world, so I'm glad things are starting to pan out for him. So, let's talk about the race. So, the race that happened with Philo, actually going across the finish line. It meant to demonstrate that Philo is a very speedy individual. It will not be outdone so easily. And I like how, despite all the cheating, Naofumi was able to come out on top and win the race against the Spear Hero. That makes me happy. It wasn't very identical to the last episode, even though there's cheating, he lost. I'm glad to see he won. And mine got, everything shoved back at her. She looked like a fool. The Spear Hero looked like a fool. It was a great moment, and I'm glad, like I said, he is starting to have good luck, and he is winning. Which, by the way, Can we talk about how the entire ordeal with Mine coming in, trying to own the town with the Spear Hero, how that was obvious just to get back at the citizens, get back at the town folk for, being saved by Naofumi? Can we take a moment to realize that? Because remember what was said at the beginning of this episode. Naofumi, the reason why he got his reward money was because he protected the village. And that's what the bow and, sword hero said. They straight up stood up for Naofumi. And so obviously someone like the princess / Mine, being a jerk as she is, she would get back at the town folk for being saved by the shield hero. I feel like that's in her character to do. So I feel like the reason why the taxation and all that came in was probably because she did not like the fact that because of them being saved is why the shield hero even got noticed and got reputation. She doesn't like that, or the king doesn't like that. And I'm glad, once again, Naofumi was able to win, and he got, his own cart, his merchant cart, to be able to be a traveling merchant. So just overall, it's a good episode. It was a very, how can I say it? There was a lot going on in this episode. It really surprises me. I mean, it feels like a really long episode. I felt like this was like a 30-minute episode or, an hour episode. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing that it dragged. It's just, there's so much content within this episode that I was just taken aback by just so much that was pushed into this. And it didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel poorly paced. There was something always going on in the episode. There was no useless scene throughout the episode that was just dragging on just so much. But that's pretty much about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And with that, I love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.